So it was made pretty evident in a previous video. I love science, I love space, that sort of thing, so this shouldn't be a surprise to you guys. These record-breaking pictures were taken by the farthest camera from Earth. Still functioning camera, but you get the point. It's still a long honking way off. They may not look like much more than blue-green smudges, but the images are record breakers. The machine that took these photos was farther from Earth than any other functioning camera in existence. I mean, just think about how far away that is, and the numbers alone should put things into perspective. It's really far away, and it makes you feel really small. NASA released the pictures captured at the end of 2017 by the Long Range Reconnaissance Imager on Thursday. The Imager is one of 7 instruments aboard the New Horizons spacecraft that reached Pluto in 2015. Poor Pluto. I feel bad for it. I mean, being a planet for so many years and then getting demoted has to hurt the ego. The camera photographed 3 subjects in December, a star group nicknamed the Wishing Well, as well as 2 objects closer to home that are part of the band of rocks, ice clumps, and dwarf planets at the edge of our solar system called the Kuiper Belt. New Horizons is in a very good trajectory to see a lot of these objects close up, said Simon Porter, an astrophysicist at Southwest Research Institute in Colorado and part of the New Horizons mission. Porter calculated when New Horizons could best observe the 2 Kuiper Belt objects and helped schedule the images. It was a test run, he noted. The image of the object called 2012 HE85 on the right. It was a test run, he noted. The image of the object called 2012 HE85 on the right is a little bit off center because it wasn't quite where predicted. And of course, it's not always gonna be right there, because you can only predict so much. In these images, New Horizon broke a record that stood for nearly 3 decades, when the probe Voyager 1 was 3.75 billion miles from Earth on Valentine's Day 1990. It turned its cameras toward home and took a photo called the Pale Blue Dot. Astronomer Carl Sagan, who pitched the photo concept, famously remarked, "Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us." And the image right here is that image. Earth is a tiny pale blue dot right there. So that should give you some idea of how small we really are in the grand scheme of things. And it should put petty differences aside. I mean, it's not going to, but it should. It's just wild in my mind. The pale blue dot was the final picture beamed back to Earth by Voyager 1, now the most distant thing made by humans in the first craft across into interstellar space. That's if we're ignoring any potential alien abductions. I'm just throwing that out there. You never know. Voyager can no longer send back postcards. Its camera was shut down. But the spacecraft is not dead yet. NASA turned on Voyager's backup thrusters in 2017 after nearly 40 years of disuse. Every time I think of Voyagers 1 and 2, I always think of this episode of Star Trek Voyager.
There are only 5 new episodes left before Voyager's series finale. What if Earth's nuclear weapons were used on other worlds?
They're suffering from prolonged radiation exposure.
What would the survivors look like? An all-new Voyager.
Where a NASA probe found a wormhole, went to the Delta Quadrant, crash-landed on a planet, and just made everybody sick with radiation poisoning. And the crew of Voyager had to help fix it and heal people. what if something like that actually did happen? And then we found out about it. I personally would feel horrible about it, and even though I didn't have anything to do with it. Just being a human, I would feel guilty about it, so... Sorry, yeah, that's how my mind works. New Horizons is not as far from Earth as Voyager 1, but this spacecraft is also on track to leave the solar system. After New Horizons launched in 2006, it flung itself around Jupiter in 2007 to get a boost toward Pluto, where it arrived in summer 2015. There, it changed the way we view the dwarf planet. New Horizons continues its journey into the cosmos at a rate of about 700,000 miles a day. Just think of that, 700,000 miles a day. The US is, give or take, 3,000 miles across, coast to coast, so that is more than 200,000 trips coast to coast a day. That's a lot of traveling. During its travels, New Horizons alternates between periods of activity and dormancy to conserve fuel. It was most recently active between September and December 2017. In the first week of December, it passed the pale blue dot's record distance. It imaged the wishing well at 3.79 billion miles away, beating the blue dot photo shoot by 40 million miles. It may not sound like a lot, but think about it. 40 million. That's a long way off. The numbers still, I've grown up loving stuff about space and space travel and all that, but even still, the enormity of the numbers just still boggles my mind. New Horizons broke its own record in the following days, photographing Kuiper Belt objects 2012 HZ84 and 2012 HE85. With diameters of 100 kilometers or so, the two Kuiper Belt objects are not large enough to classify as dwarf planets. Next to nothing is known about the microsurfaces of objects like these, Porter said. The images of 2012 HZ84 and 2012 HE85 provide vital context to the understudied bodies at the solar system's bleeding edge. Let's face it, the only way to really study them, we're going to have to go there eventually. The Kuiper Belt is a vast expanse of rocks, ice clumps, comets, and dwarf planets beyond Neptune. Dwarf planet Pluto is part of the belt, but it was not recognized as such until the discovery of other Kuiper Belt objects in the early 2000s. Pluto was estimated in 2015 to be the largest object in the belt, though there are other dwarf planets of note such as Ares, Hume, and Makemake. A dwarf planet so nice they named it twice. Yes, I know it's corny, but let's be honest. You name something like Makemake, you're gonna get the joke. For now, the Hubble telescope, which orbits Earth, can image most Kuiper Belt objects in greater detail than New Horizons' 8-inch telescope, Porter said. But that will not be true when New Horizons wakes up in August. The spacecraft's camera will continue to set image records as it flies by a Kuiper Belt object called 24MU69 in January 2019. The Kuiper Belt object flyby is not nearly as flashy as Pluto, Porter said, but it's really a unique observation. If a craft were launched today, it would take a decade to travel as far as New Horizons has, and there are no immediate plans to follow in its path. Which, let's be honest, if there were, I wouldn't be patient enough to wait anymore. But like I said, I thought you guys would enjoy this. You seem to enjoy my previous NASA ones, so I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure, like, subscribe, comment, all that self-promotion stuff, Have fun.